Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the portal system, which is located between the hypothalamus and also the anterior pituitary gland, and which helps the anterior pituitary gland to have a relation with the hypothalamus. As you know, and as I have explained in the previous video, the posterior pituitary gland does not have the posterior pituitary gland has a direct relation with the hypothalamus, but the anterior pituitary gland, the anterior part of the pituitary gland, does not have a direct relation with the hypothalamus, and this is because how they mature and grow because of its embryology growth. So they come from different parts of ectoderm, and that is why the hypothalamus or a part of the diencephalon, which hypothalamus is part of the diencephalon, will rise to the posterior pituitary gland, and in here I have the infundibulum, which makes its relation with the posterior pituitary gland, with the posterior pituitary gland with the hypothalamus. However, the anterior pituitary gland does not have this relation, and it is going to stick and hang to posterior pituitary gland. And in here I have the infundibulum, the hypothalamus, the medial eminence, in here, and in here this is the sphenoid bone, and in here I have the hypophyseal fossa, which in the hypophyseal fossa I have this pituitary gland located. So here is the anterior part of the pituitary gland, the anterior part, and this is the posterior part of the pituitary gland. And I'm going to talk about the portal system, what is it consists of, and how is it made to have the relation and make the relation with hypothalamus. So in here I have the superior hypophyseal artery. The superior hypophyseal artery will come in here and have a net capillary. So it just branches to small capillaries and make the primary plexus or primary net of hypophyseal portal system. So this is the primary net of hypophyseal portal system. Then these capillaries connect to each other and the blood is coming. So and finally make the hypophyseal portal vein. So, or the hypophyseal portal system in here, or the hypophyseal portal vein. And finally, I have in here another bed or net capillaries, which has the name of secondary plexus of hypophyseal portal system, or the secondary net capillaries of hypophyseal portal system. So what happens in here? These capillaries then join to each other and connect to each other, and finally I have the anterior hypophyseal vein. So this is the anterior hypophyseal vein. In here I have the superior hypophyseal artery. It is the superior part, and also this is the artery too. So it is superior hypophyseal artery. Here it is the anterior pituitary gland, so it is the anterior hypophyseal vein. So what happened and what is my goal? As I told you, hypothalamus does not have a direct relation with the anterior pituitary gland. So what should it do? What should we do? So the hypothalamus must make its relation. How it makes its relation? By the capillaries and net capillaries and its portal vein and portal system. So what it does? The artery comes in here, there are some branches, then the vein comes, and there are some branches, and finally the vein goes out of this anterior pituitary gland. And what are these branches and what are these arteries and veins called? The superior hypophyseal artery. And why it is called superior? Because it is located in the superior part of the pituitary gland, so superior hypophyseal artery. Then it has its branches and the net capillary. What is this name? Primary plexus of hypophyseal portal system. Then they connect to each other. And what is inside these? There is blood, and also by diffusion there are some hormones. The hormones which the target cell is located in here. This target cell in the anterior pituitary gland is going finally to make some other hormones for other organs and other glands. So the whole goal is to transfer and diffuse some hormones into this bed capillary in here, and they will be brought in here, and by again diffusion they will go to their target cell, which their target cell has its own receptors for this type of hormone, which is going to be in here. And these hormones can be liberins or statins. It means they can be stimulatory or they can be inhibitory. It means that the hypothalamus, there are some cells in here in the hypothalamus, they make liberins and statins. different kind of hormones which tells to release something, stimulate, and just make another hormone which tells to these cells to make another hormone, or tells them, okay, stop your work, do not make any hormone, and inhibits them. So what I wanted to tell you that in here we have finally the net capillary, and after that we have hypophyseal portal vein or hypophyseal portal system is coming in here, and finally the net capillary in here, simple diffusion. Those liberins and statins are going to be released here and are going to have a simple diffusion. And finally I have my anterior hypophyseal vein out. The blood is going out after it diffuses, and after its diffusion the blood is going out. So this was about anterior pituitary gland. But what about the posterior pituitary gland? So what is this? This is a net capillary too. This is capillary plexus of infundibular process. But it is not a portal system. And why? Because for portal system I need 2 net capillaries, not 1. So there is no portal system in here, but finally the blood is coming by the artery. This artery is called inferior hypophyseal artery. Inferior hypophyseal artery for the posterior, superior hypophyseal artery for the anterior. So in here I have the inferior hypophyseal artery. It brings the blood. Here it would bring the blood to superior hypophyseal artery, inferior hypophyseal artery. There are arteries, they bring the blood. So they bring the blood, nourish here, exchanges happens in here for O2 and also CO2, and also nourishment and the capillary plexus of infundibular process, the name is. And finally the blood is going out by what? By the posterior hypophyseal vein. By the posterior hypophyseal, it is related to the posterior, pituitary gland, and this is the posterior hypophyseal vein. In here I had the anterior hypophyseal vein. Anterior hypophyseal vein for the anterior pituitary gland, posterior hypophyseal vein for the posterior pituitary gland, and inferior hypophyseal artery for the posterior pituitary gland also. And this is the infundibulum and the relation and the direct relation to the hypothalamus, and that is why it does not need a portal vein system. It does not need this system, because there is already a relation in here which is made by axons, and there are some other cells in here, they produce hormones in the hypothalamus, which I will tell and explain about them in the next video. Those cells which in here produce some hormones, they bring this hormone by axons to this part. The hormones will be saved, stored. These hormones are named ADH or vasopressin and also oxytocin. I'm going to talk about it more in the next video. But all in all, this hypothalamus has some neurons. These neurons has axons, and the axons will bring the hormone in here. So the posterior pituitary gland does not make any hormone, but the anterior pituitary gland makes hormone. That's it. And in the next video I'm going to talk about the posterior pituitary gland, the hormones which come there and will be stored, and also the anterior pituitary gland which makes its hormone, and how this relation is working, and what are these cells called, each one, and what type they are.